Yo, what is up YouTube? This is your boy Wassabi, and today we're gonna be learning about the neutral game and footsies. And we're gonna be doing this, not by just looking at Melee, but by looking at Street Fighter footage too. What I have pulled up right now is the Footsies Handbook, which is this old school text for Street Fighter players made back in 2013 from SonicHurricane.com. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking through each of these. They have different chapters. We're going to be looking at chapter 1 first, which has a few examples, and talking about what footsies and neutral is. And for those of you who aren't familiar, footsies and neutral is state of the game in which neither player has an advantage. They're both at this mid-range where they can't hit each other, and it's about how do you hit your opponent, how do you trick your opponent into falling into your range where you can actually hit them and you can go from point A, which, the neutral game, to point B, which is the punish game, and that's where you'll be able to take stocks and win matches and sets. All of these top players know how to do this, and it originally came from traditional 2D fighters, and so that's why we're looking back at this text, is to be able to understand it better and then make it into Melee terms. Or, as the Footsies Handbook explains it, it's the old school slang for the mid-range ground-based aspect of fighting game strategy. Now, of course, Melee and Street Fighter are two different games, but there's still so much to learn that even I learned making this video that can improve your Melee game, even if it's referring to Street Fighter. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with chapter 1. So a lot of people make the mistake of assuming that footsies is something that you whip up on the fly. And while that is really possible and freestyle, footsies or neutral is a valuable skill, many of the top players know the rules of footsies, know these scenarios, and then because they know it, they're able to break it in those situations. So if you really want to play like Mango, you gotta know the rules so that you can learn how to break it. Because footsies is so complex and the neutral game has so much nuance to it, it's normally hard to grasp and understand, and that's why it's really important that we're reviewing even these simpler examples, because that's the solid foundation that the future tips and tricks will build on, so that you can win those situations in game. And I'm gonna bring in Melee examples that will help contextualize it for you. So let's start with element number 1, momentarily stepping into your opponent's poke range and quickly backing out instead of attacking. This is footsies 101. We'll show an example in a little bit, but what you have to understand is that, this bait of like walking into someone's range and then pausing and not doing anything works really well, especially with the amount of movement Melee gives you, especially in tense situations when there's a lot of zoning and, a lot of cautious gameplay, because, no one really wants to walk in and get hit by something when you're over 100%. So let's check out the first video example, and then we'll, I'll bring in my Melee examples that I thought is best suited for this. Since this was made in 2013, a lot of the footage is going to be old school footage and a little blurry, but these are still great examples to look at. And our first one is going to be Guile versus Ken in Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting. What we're going to look for is the Guile's going to walk into Ken's range, and the Ken is going to think the Guile's going to put out his leg with like a crouching kick. And Ken's going to uppercut, and the Guile's going to bait it out. So we'll see the Guile walk up. Right now they're just throwing projectiles. We'll see him walk up, and then there he baits it. And that's like one of the examples. He'll do it one more time right here, where he'll walk up, Ken will uppercut, and then there, he baits again. That's half of his health already, right? That really shows the example in a Street Fighter sense of how to do it. But now let's check out how Melee players do it. Alright, so the first example I have from you is Pvu Vs Armada from I'm Not Yelling. This was, back in 2015. But what we'll see is Pvu actually baits out Armada 3 times, which is incredibly hard to do with Armada, obviously. And, the sort of nuance to the Melee specific is that, Fox, being such an amazing character, can threaten at pretty much all ranges. So Pvu has to choose what specific range he wants to bait Armada to do, right? So we'll see him bait more at the closer range, where Armada will want to short hop nair, jab, and grab him, especially when Pvu's at 75%. And you have to factor in your percentage to think about what your opponent wants to do and play off of that. So we'll see it after this interaction, right? There's 1, there's 2, and then there's 3. And Pvu gets a full tipper punish for it. So let's watch it one more time, right? And we'll go a little bit slower here. I'll pause a few times, but we'll see he dashes in and then dashes in again and makes Armada want to nair at him. Barely outside of his range. Armada misses. He goes, Armada thinks Pvu's close enough. He goes for the jab again, and as a last-ditch desperation, Armada will go for a grab. completely misses Pvu, and of course Marth has invincible legs, but that's what the character can do, and he still walked in and out of Fox's range, right? And from there he gets a full punish. Let's look at the second example now. Okay, for the second example, what we're going to look at is Ppmd versus Mtk at Apex 2014. What we're going to see Ppmd do is, run in and do an empty hop and then move away, and it baits Mtk's snare. So it will happen once Mtk gets off of ledge here. There we go, he baits him. So this is really interesting because, even if he doesn't get a full punish, he still wins the ground game, and that's what we're really talking about. This is neutral, right? So he missed the punish, but that's okay. What's really interesting here is that Mtk shielded here, and this is very unique to Smash because other fighting games don't have shielding, right? And what happens when you shield is, your opponent is limiting their threat range because you can only do so much out of shield, right? You can wave dash out of shield, you can, up B and up smash out of shield depending on what character you have. You can let go of shield, wave dash down, jump out. But that's really it. The threat range that Marth has here is significantly less than what he would have if he wasn't shielding, and Ppmd knows this, and that's why he backs away, because that's the farthest Mtk can go, and because of that, he pays the price by losing neutral. So that's a really good example of element number 1, of moving into your opponent's threat range and then not doing anything and moving away to sort of bait it. Okay, so for element number 2, it's determining which of your combos and attack strings position your opponents barely outside their effective reversal range. This is especially true when facing characters with great mobility. They're talking about meter here, but the point is that you want to make your opponent do something when you appear falsely vulnerable to them. And there's a lot of great examples of this. For the first part, where it's barely outside of their reversal range, with Smash it's a little bit different because you can also knock them down and throw them off stage, which obviously means that they can't immediately reversal you. But I wanted to find an example that more closely fits the example that they give here with Sagat versus Ken. Okay, so in this Street Alpha 2 tournament, we'll see Sagat do this combo, and then he'll cross up Ken. And then he throws this fireball, right? And he makes Ken think, okay, at this distance, it's now my turn to do a super. I can do this. I'll win the set if I do it. And, this Ken, the only thing he has in his mind is, I'll do a super, and I'll win. The Sagat knows that, he still is too far away to get any true reversal. And so let's see what happens. Ken does a super, and Sagat reversal uppercuts him and wins the set. Tight battle, but this is a really great example of how the Sagat positioned himself outside of Ken's range and tricked him, right? He looked vulnerable, but he really wasn't. So now let's look at a melee term of it. Alright, finding the melee equivalent of this was a little bit hard to find, but shoutouts to my good friend Wally. Everyone should follow him at Wally_SSBM for letting me use this video. He's one of the most up-and-coming players of the year, amazing player from Jersey, and has this really underutilized tech that I really don't see a lot of Peaches doing. And what it is, when Fox drills, he'll just always shine. It's almost a habit. And what Wally does is he jumps out and gets hit by the shine in the air, but by getting hit by the shine in the air, he's immediately actionable. And that's really interesting because then he's making the Fox think that he has this true punish of drill shine, and he immediately opens up and does like a full punish on these Foxes, unfortunately. And we'll watch it one more time again. You'll see here, he jumps out, and he immediately can grab this Fox. Here he jumps out and he gets a dash attack. So this is like, in my opinion, the closest thing of this, the example of the Sagat that we saw, right? Where Peach is the Sagat in this situation. There is another example of this that I do want to show you. Okay, so what we see here is Leffen baits out Samus's up B out of shield. Now, if you remember what I said in the first time, they're putting someone in shield in melee and in Smash in general limits their threat range, right? So here Leffen is making Duck think he looks really vulnerable by attacking his shield, which is normally unsafe, right? And he does this nair, and then he immediately wave dashes out, baits the up B out of shield, and gets a full juggle 40%, which is huge for Samus, right? And it was because he was in shield. So definitely, with melee, you have to factor in both reversal ranges when they're in shield and reversal ranges when they're not in shield. Okay, so now let's look at element number 3. Once you establish a pattern of poking consistently at certain ranges, use your opponent's hesitation to walk up and throw them. It's always dangerous to walk into your enemy's space, But if you condition them to not put out anything, this can really open them up, especially when, you know, they're in a corner. You know, so if we're looking at a specific melee example, there is one iconic moment that comes to mind. Who's that? Set. Okay, so if you guys didn't guess it, it's Hacks versus Mango at Big House 4. The legendary walk up slowly and down smash. I'm gonna turn on the audio just because the soundbite's so perfect.
And I think you should take me seriously, because look at the scoreboard right now.
Yeah, I got numbers on the...
Oh! Yo, did he just walk up slowly and down smash?
He did. He really did, though.
Oh, Hacks.
Who doesn't remember this? I mean, absolutely amazing, right? Even if we rewind it, like, look how slowly he does this, right? It's such an interesting tempo change. And, you know, what's interesting here is that, you know, we all expect Mango to be an aggressive person, do aggressive options, you know, is a very aggressive, nutty player, right, in his own right. But we also see that beforehand, he does do this. He does, like, throw Fox and then immediately does something. So here we'll see it. He'll get a grab on Fox, immediately jumps in, right? So the fact that he, like, threw Fox and then didn't do anything was actually really, really ridiculous. And then on top of that, he had the balls to do the down smash. So, you know, element number 3 kind of led to one of the most iconic moments in Melee history. In this second example, we're going to be looking at Ppmd versus Mtk again, and this one's a little bit more straightforward. As I'm playing this, we'll see Ppmd put these 2 auto-cancel bear pressures and then catch Mtk being super hesitant on moving forward, right? He actually forces Mtk to shield here again, which limits his threat range, what Mtk can do. This empty hop land is threatening, putting out then 1 bear, a 2nd bear. At this point, Mtk doesn't want to do anything. He's hesitating. He's going to wait in the corner, and Ppmd knows this. So using element number 3, where he causes Mtk to hesitate, he just jump in and dares. Now, I know this isn't a throw like in Street Fighter, but with Melee, you have way more options, you know, with your character's toolset. And this is a great example of element number 3. There is one more interesting one that we'll look at now. For the final example of element number 3, I pulled up Pvu versus Hbox. Now Fox, not Fox, Marth is a great example of this because of the range that he has, right? Everyone's scared of his fair, and all of a sudden then he can suddenly grab you and has that range for it. We'll watch him versus Hbox, which is, you know, we'll see Pvu put out these fairs, right? Jump fair, jump aerial, right? There was a jump nair, here was a jump fair. And, you know, in about 5 seconds, he's gonna do a jump grab. He jumps, and he goes for a grab. It doesn't work here, but you can see how this mix-up of jump fair, jump aerial into a jump tomahawk grab or empty land grab works really well together. And there's an inherent synergy to it that is because of, you know, element number 3. So it might have not worked here, especially because grabbing Puff as Marth is super hard. And Hbox moved out of the way just in time, but the foundation of element 3 is here. So that's it for element number 3. There's one last bonus element that we'll look at, which is element number 99. And once in a while, try hiding behind a table. It's so funny, but without the context of the video, it's hard to, you know what this is. So let's look at the video. Okay, so in this video, we have Wong versus Nuki, 2 very famous third strike players. And what you'll see here is that they're going to use this table to actually mask both their position, mask their character models, and mask their attacks, which is really interesting, right? Like, look, you can barely see the moves that they're doing. It's really confusing. There's actually going to be one where I don't even know where the arm ends. Look at that, right? You see here, Wong has this Chun-Li's arm fully extended, and you know, we want to believe that it ends here, but how do we really know, right? Because of this wooden beam. This is what it means by hiding under the table, using your environment to your advantage. And in Street Fighter, we see it with this table, right? Even Nuki, right? He's not the one putting out a move. Look, he's hiding behind there. Chun-Li's tights make it hard to see. You know, in Smash, you have Randall, you have Shy Guys, you have so many factors to think about. You know, if they don't freeze Stadium, you have all of Stadium, really. And so it's about using your environment. Now there is one example. It's the best ledge dash in history, and let's see why. Let's see why it is hiding under the table. Okay, so the best ledge dash in history is obviously from Leffen. And what is happening is that he'll actually hide through this smoke right here and immediately like just teleport over here. If it wasn't for his tag, it would be impossible to see him, right? So I'll just do it fast and then we'll go by frame. Boom. He's teleport. He's out of there. He's out of there. Last stock, game 5, he's out of there. Now let's rewind a little bit. Right? He'll get hit by Armada. Armada will pull the turnip. There. So because of the smoke of the stadium transforming, if we go frame by frame, you'll see him starting to ledge dash here. And you can kind of see him here, right? You can see his ears right here. And then he'll disappear. And again, if it wasn't for a tag, like, where the hell is Leffen? You don't see him again for another frame. Barely hard to see him here. It almost is like he's matching the light green of the water transformation grass. And then he, you can kind of see him pop out there, and then he starts to emerge, right? And this is hiding under the table, the best ledge dash in history. And what does it net him? It nets him the win against Armada at Big House 4. So, this is a very fun example, of course, but you do want to use your environment to your advantage. That is part of Footsies, that's part of the neutral game. And that's it for chapter 1. So if you guys really like this video, if it was helpful to you, please don't forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you learned, let me know what you found the most interesting, and let me know if you want more of this, right? Like, there are 9 other more chapters to go for this, which is going to be hype. Just want to know if you guys liked it and what it helped with your gameplay. You can follow me at wassabisabi on all media handles, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, of course, Twitch. Alright, anyway, see you guys. Have a good day.